Ladies and gentlemen, opening week was a success. Hello, I am the analyst at theanalyst32 on Twitter if you're interested in giving me a follow. This is college football week in review. We had a bunch of great games to start out the college football season. Ohio State beat Virginia Tech on Monday in a romp, to say the least. Ohio State, Cardale Jones ended up getting the start, threw all over the Virginia Tech defense. They ran all over the Virginia Tech defense. I would have liked to see Ohio State give Ezekiel Elliott the ball a few more times, but we will eventually get to that later in the season. But it was a fantastic game and a fantastic result. Ohio State will have a cupcake this week, but they're going to roll through the Big Ten by the way I can see it. And they ended up winning that game 42-24. Alabama made mincemeat out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin had no answer for Alabama in their 35-17 loss. I'll be surprised if Wisconsin finishes higher than third in the Big Ten, especially if Michigan State plays well. And Michigan State had a difficult game against, a difficult game in terms of their performance against Western Michigan, but we'll see how they do against Oregon this weekend. Another impressive game. UCLA, with their freshman quarterback, go up and beat Virginia 34-16, and really that may have been the class of the Pac-12, sadly, with the likes of Oregon struggling against Eastern Washington in a game where Oregon scores 60 points, but Eastern Washington still gets in the 50s. No, not 50s, 45, excuse me. We really could have seen better out of Oregon's defense this past weekend. Really, Eastern Washington threw all over them. Had a guy who had almost 300 yards receiving. And both quarterbacks for Eastern Washington, their starter and their backup, looked like Vernon Adams 3.0. Even though Vernon Adams did have a good game for the Ducks before he went out with a concussion late in the second half. Oregon isn't going to have an issue on offense this year. Oregon is not going to have an issue on offense this year, but they need to step it up. They had no pass rush, even with all that talent that was returning in their front seven. So that'll be something to look out for in the Oregon-Michigan State game this weekend. So we'll see how that goes. Also, Arizona struggled in a team that's supposed to have one of their better defenses, or one of the better defenses in the Pac-12 into this coming year, Rich Rod and them. They ended up having Scooby Wright get hurt, and they gave up 32 points to University of Texas San Antonio. Yeah, University of Texas San Antonio. You hear that name, but you hear that name normally as a team that comes in as, a cupcake that one of the bigger schools runs over, and Arizona had a rough time with them. So Arizona will need to get back on track. They play Nevada coming up this next week, and the Mountain West has had their way with teams so far this season, and wouldn't be shocked to see that continue in these next few games. Another difficult result for a top 10 team, which seemed to be a recurring theme for a few of them. TCU had a rough game at Minnesota. They won 23-17, but they were holding on for dear life there in the second half. I've had TCU as my second best team in the nation, but they really have to show something better and get better in the second week. Also, Auburn, as I mentioned earlier, had a tough game against Louisville. Well, maybe I didn't mention it earlier, but either way, Auburn had a tough game against Louisville. Louisville, they're well coached under Bobby Petrino. He has always a solid defense. It's Was kind of expecting Auburn to do more, though, especially since Louisville lost a couple of players. So, will this be a sign of Auburn taking this game and learning from it and jump starting the season off of it? We'll see. They got a few tough games in the SEC, to say the least. Well, every game in the SEC is tough. However, will we see Louisville come up and end up being a big contender in their conference? I would hope so. Louisville should be at least an 8-win team, but Auburn will have to find out. They're still one of the better teams, I think, in college football, but they have a lot to prove in the next couple weeks after that performance. So, now that I have rambled on about some games that I liked, didn't like, and coming up, let's go over my top 10 for this coming week, my top 10 teams right now. I have Ohio State number 1 with their impressive win over Virginia Tech. Like I said, Ezekiel Elliott needs to get the ball more, but they will fix that eventually. Urban Meyer is one heck of a coach, and he'll get that down pat. I have Alabama number 2, no reason to drop them any from where I had them last week. Auburn dropped, but Alabama, they just keep bringing in the talent. I tell you what, that was an impressive performance against Wisconsin. TCU, I dropped them down from 2nd to 3rd. I should have dropped them more, but I think TCU will eventually round things out with their team. They just have too much talent and too good of coaching not to. I currently have Baylor at number 4. They didn't do anything to lose their spot. USC, I have moved up ahead of Oregon to number 5. Mostly because USC just put on a better performance. Oregon didn't play defense. It's really that simple. So I have Oregon in at number 6. We'll see how Vernon Adams continues to run that offense against a Big Ten defense, and one heck of a Big Ten defense in Michigan State, who I have coming in at number 7. Though they had a tough game against Western Michigan, they should be giving Oregon all they can handle. And number 8, Notre Dame had a big game against Texas this past weekend and just dominated Texas. Notre Dame has a ton of talent. We'll see if they can be refined and make a run for a top 4 spot coming up. And number 9, jumping all the way up into my top 10, UCLA. If everything goes the way it's rolling for them with their freshman quarterback, he looks really, really poised for a freshman and really understands the offense already for UCLA. They might make a run at the Pac-12 as well. They're going to give USC a run for their money. And then coming in at number 10 after a disappointing performance, I have Auburn. They still won, but that game I still have to drop them a little bit. So, coming in my games to watch for this coming week of week 2, I have up in the big house, Oregon State plays at Michigan in the Pac-12 Big Ten matchup. Oregon State had a decent win over Weber State over the weekend under their new coach who came from Nebraska. We'll have to see how they do in this big test. It's never easy to go into the big house and win, even if Michigan is under transition with Harbaugh and who they're going to start at quarterback after they lost to Utah this past week. So we'll see how that goes. Oregon plays at Michigan State. Expect this to be the game of the weekend, easily. It's going to be a high-scoring affair because I don't think either defense is going to be all that able to stop the other offense. If anything proves from last year, where that game was close until Oregon blew it up in the second half on some turnovers that created opportunities for them on the offensive end. So, also, Fresno State plays at Ole Miss. Ole Miss's first test of this season. Not a lot returning for Fresno State. They shouldn't be more than a 7-win team this season. However, the WAC and, well, now the Mountain West always has a record of playing well in these games. So Ole Miss is going to have to show that they have a good team like they did last year. In the Pac-12, we have Cal traveling to play San Diego State, and San Diego State has a sneaky good offense. So we'll have to see how Jared Goff and them do against San Diego State. It's another test for Cal. Maybe they'll be able to make a run in the Pac-12 North this season. Also, another ranked matchup, Oklahoma is going to Tennessee. The real question, will Bob Stoops win this big ranked out-of-conference game, or is Tennessee going to show some form that they have not shown in years? Tennessee's had some recruiting classes. They've had some recruiting classes recently, so I expect this to be closer than people think, and I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee comes up and surprises Oklahoma here. And my last game, and I made mention of it earlier, Arizona is playing Nevada. Bad things happen to Pac-12 teams that travel to Mountain West schools. Bad things happen normally. So hopefully Scooby Wright ends up being okay for this weekend and helps that defense slow down Nevada and their pistol offense. But I can't promise anything because Arizona didn't show me much on offense last week either. But anyway, this has been your college football special going into week 2. We will be back next week covering what happened in week 2 and looking forward to week 3. Thank you for watching. I am the analyst. Give it a like, give it a comment below. Also, feel free to subscribe and like me or follow me on Twitter at theanalyst32. And we hope you have a great week. And thank you for watching.